we take reaches the goal of stabilizing that region. Proposition will prove to you that not only does the enhanced forward presence not serve to provide security and deterrence for the allies, but it provokes Russia and it escalates the situation unnecessarily. So what is this debate exactly about? In terms of the EFP, enhanced forward presence, is a NATO ally deployment in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, following the Warsaw Summit back in 2016. It is important for us to note here that these deployments of allied troops are relatively small. We have about 800 British troops in Estonia, 450 Canadian troops in Latvia, and 800 US troops in Poland. So, in this debate, it is important for us to also understand a point which is about evaluating the EFP as it stands today. Neither proposition nor opposition can debate the policy as they wish it to be. Rather, we're evaluating the EFP and whether it does more harm than good. Team proposition will contest that not only does it not make the NATO allies any safer, but it antagonizes Russia, resulting in a greater regional instability and empowering of the Putin regime. We will prove it along three lines of analysis. The first one is that the Russian response and resulting instability is worse. Second of all, there is a negative impact on Eastern Europe, and my second speaker will show you how the negative broader impact on NATO and the EU. As a matter of clarification, it is important for us to understand that proposition believes that we have a toolbox of diplomatic alternatives to address the Putin regime. And we also believe that Article 5 of NATO, which means that we can sufficiently protect and defend our allies without requiring the EFP. Essentially, the EFP is unnecessary and team opposition has a burden to show us that Article 5 is insufficient to offer protection for Eastern Europe. Now, I would gladly move on to my substantives. I would like to start with the first one, and that is the regional stability in the face of Russian responses. There are two levels to this argument. The first one is that it empowers Putin. It is essential for us to understand that the domestic politics of Russia, especially insofar as the Putin regime has an enormous ability to control the information available to people and control public discourse. Also, the dominant narrative within Russia is that they were once a great nation that has been treated unfairly and is being pushed around by the West since the end of the Cold War. They see the West increasingly encroaching on Russian sovereignty. Importantly, Putin is portrayed as a strong man, and his legitimacy is derived from his ability to counter this perceived Western aggression. Derived from his ability to counter this with this perceived Western aggression. So the internal logic of the Russian regime is twofold. The first thing is that Russia has an incentive to exaggerate and use NATO actions, especially military ones, as a propaganda tool to empower the Putin regime. Second of all, Putin's position relies on his ability to respond firmly and aggressively to these perceived threats. What does that mean? It means that proposition contends that it is while in the long-term best interest of Eastern Europe and NATO to have a more moderate, a more friendly regime in Russia, the EFP empowers exactly the opposite powers within Russia. Secondly, we think that it incentivizes Russian foreign policy to become more destabilizing. How is that? As stated, the set of incentives facing the Kremlin are such that they must respond aggressively to threats posed by the EFP. This can happen in several levels. The first one is that there is a decreased willingness to cooperate and engage in treaties that were designed in the first place to stabilize our region. The EFP has precipitated a withdrawal from three such treaties. The first thing is that the end of enrichment of weapons-grade plutonium treaty, the intermediate-range nuclear forces treaty, and the treaty on conventional forces in Europe. So these are all post-Cold War treaties designed to ensure the stability in the region, and Russian defection from these treaties illustrates a direct destabilizing effect. The second is that it undermines the potentially essential Russian cooperation in other areas. Russia, for instance, has shown unwillingness to engage constructively with the West when it comes to the conflict in Syria. They have not budged on the issue of Ukraine, not to mention the valuable intelligence sharing in the fight against terrorism. Putin has often cited this purported NATO aggression as evidence that the West is not interested in a mutually beneficial relationship of cooperation. So we've seen that the EFP leads to an emboldened Russian nationalism that puts the Putin regime, that the Putin regime is incentivized to respond firmly, to respond in kind. So the question is now that what are the consequences for Eastern Europe? Before I move on to my second argument, I would gladly take your POI.
EFP did not exist before 2014. Why was Vladimir Putin not replaced by moderates in the 10 years of time he was in power before 2014?
Okay, let's take a comparison over here. Let's compare our world and the harms on your side and the benefits that we get if we use the Article 5. So on your side, you said that the EFP did not come 10 years ago and whatnot. You see, what we believe here, that the EFP, first of all, is just an excuse for Putin to go on and attack these countries. Second of all, they're not even as useful as the Article 5 because the Article 5 is it's like when these countries have an obligation to go and protect with a full-on army, not 450 Canadian troops in these countries. That is why we think that your side prevents more harm. That is why we have a burden to prove to us why Article 5 is not sufficient. So I'm going to move on to my second argument, which is the impact on Eastern Europe. We think the consequences of Eastern Europe has been twofold. First, they are military and non-military. I will focus on non-military, while my second speaker will expand on the military consequences. So as for non-military consequences, we mean that since the EFP, we've seen Russian ramp up its hybrid warfare activities. It is important for us to know that this is the predominant way in which Russia interests in other countries. This is largely their efforts to destabilize their neighbors through misinformation, such as fake news, campaigns, even cyber attacks. Let's have an example for that, such as the denial of service attack in national banks in Estonia and Poland. If the EFP cannot deter these, which it can't, then it has failed. But furthermore, beyond an increase in these efforts, Russia is making moves to sow ethnic discord similar to those they did in Ukraine. It is important to note that the areas where the EFP is taking place in Estonia and Latvia, almost 30% of the population is ethnically Russian, and they come with pre-existing tensions between the majority of this population. Russia has used the presence of NATO forces and their aggression towards the homeland as an opportunity to portray the EFP troops as occupiers, allowing them to encourage separatist sentiments. And encourage rioting and opposition movements. Overall, we've seen the responses from Russia has been to seek means to internally destabilize these Eastern Europe countries domestically. And for these reasons, we as Team Proposition are completely proud to propose. Thank you.
The first motion and 8 minutes.
And then the first proposition speaker for the speech. And now to open the chairs for the opposition, please welcome Sabiri Girifasan.
Team titles in this debate will defend two fundamental propositions. Firstly, that Vladimir Putin, without constraint, will seek to control Eastern Europe, and secondly, that NATO's forward presence has been essential to preserving the rights, liberties, and futures of millions of Europeans. We believe that forward presence has done more good than harm because it has constrained the actions of one of the world's most dangerous individuals. And this is why we are proud to stand for Team 9 that Eastern Europe without NATO presence will always be put in jeopardy, which is why we are proud to bring you the 3.5 case. Firstly, why NATO's forward presence makes Putin unwilling to occupy Eastern European countries. Secondly, why NATO makes Putin unable to occupy these countries. And my second speaker will be talking to you about how forward presence preserves NATO development. But firstly, for some rebuttal. So I'll be asking two questions for rebuttal. Firstly, does this worsen Russian response? And secondly, is this the cause of Putin's power? Firstly, does it worsen Russian response? We believe that Russian anti-Western narratives and Russian bad response to the West exist on both sides of the house, because we believe that a few military ships or 800 soldiers, as they put, like a very small amount, cannot be the sole reason of a huge amount of anti-Western narrative by Russia. We believe that these tensions have existed since the Cold War and will always exist. These anti-Western narratives have been existing since for many, many decades, and that if we don't put constraints on them through NATO, then they will be the cause for a lot of war later on. And we believe that because Russia will never be able to openly engage with the US in open combat, that they will use things like cyber attacks on both sides of the house, and we need NATO to continue this research into cyber attacks so this doesn't occur. Secondly, does Putin's power actually come from this, right? So they wanted treaties of like 15 years ago, but then the thing is, we can't really compare now to 15 years ago, because 15 years ago, Russia was a weak country. Now when Russia has more strength, we believe it makes sense for them to withdraw from treaties that they made when they didn't have this much power. And we believe that we need NATO to actually constrain Russia in order to not carry out bad policy it needs in Europe. Now on to my first argument, so why NATO forward presence deters Putin's aggression. In order to understand what Putin wants, then what he would do without any constraint, we must first understand his formative experiences, because these are the ones that determine what politicians make. Putin will stop at nothing to establish the former USSR and its sphere of influence, and will stop at nothing to have absolute power over Eastern Europe. Without constraints, he won't rest until the former USSR is re-established for two reasons. Firstly, so the threat of collapse never returns, because Putin lived in a time when the state after state collapsed. The world he fought for collapsed almost overnight. He does not want this to happen again, so he wants to make as much power as possible. And secondly, most importantly, to prove to the Russian people, to prove to the world that Russia of the 90s is not the true Russia. And furthermore, though Russia is a landlocked country, but it also has very strong military power and very strong air power. But we think that in order to rival the US and actually be a world power, it needs a strong naval presence. And this is important for 4 reasons, right? In military crisis, Russia must secure food imports and imports oil and other manufactured goods in order to sustain its economy, especially when other nations won't cooperate with it. Secondly, to fend off potential enemies from coming via sea. Thirdly, to intervene into strategic locations of naval routes. Fourthly, to rival US naval power and its projections all around the world. For these reasons, Russia has spent pretty much since the 1920s fighting wars in order to obtain a warm water port, like Sevastopol in the Black Sea, Kaliningrad in the Baltic Sea, and Syrian port in the Mediterranean. They fought the Crimean War, the Baltic War, World War I, and they would have fought World War II over except Germany. And the fact that they're willing to put their own soldiers at risk in Syria to gain access to the Mediterranean Sea just proves how important this is to Russia. So Russia has already now establishing what they will do without constraints. Let's analyze why NATO is uniquely capable of providing this constraint for Russia so this does not occur. Putin will never do anything that will lead to the destruction of Russia. And there are two main threats that the US face and NATO president provide which is sufficient to make Putin stop dead in his tracks. Firstly, the threat of a nuclear exchange, right? So how will this happen? If Russian troops cross the border into Eastern Europe and engage with NATO soldiers, then escalation occurs very, very quickly. Because this is automatic escalation, which is very, very quick. And NATO builds an air support, and so does Russia. Both sides start loading air-to-air and surface-to-air missiles. And as soon as this happens, and the threat of a nuclear attack is imminent, both sides will try and launch a first strike. To be very clear, the exchange of fire between NATO to Russia will annihilate the Russian Federation, which is something that Putin would never do. And also, note that this analysis doesn't just apply to direct invasion. It also means that Putin will be very cautious to employ special forces, paramilitary, ununiformed forces, as he did in Ukraine and Georgia. So as soon as something similar happens, when the command of Russian weaponry are firing on NATO troops, the same escalation occurs. And secondly, even if you don't believe a nuclear exchange is possible, right? Even a conventional military engagement could be avoided at all costs. Why? Because Putin's image is one person, since Brezhnev, that can keep Russia stable and keep Russia away from threats, is easily damaged by military loss. The loss of its image will likely mean that Putin will be endangered by the FSG. There are many members in Russian political sphere who support Putin needs. Firstly, it's the oligarchs that control the entire Russian economy. Secondly, it's the generals who organized the coup in 1933 and will likely do it again if Putin's not strong. And most importantly, the FSG and the KGB, who provide him with the apparatus of terror that he needs to subdue the population. If he threatens Russian security, if Putin threatens Russian security, then they will violently depose of him, and making him the scapegoat of the government and his life will be on the line. So let's be very clear what we've proven in a moment. Putin wants a military start occupation of countries in Eastern Europe and the former USSR bloc, but the threat of NATO annihilation restrains all of his objectives. And secondly, in the case of no NATO, we can see Russian occupation as an indirect or direct way in all of these regions. Yes, okay.
You believe that Vladimir Putin relies on anti-NATO rhetoric to gain more power internally?
We think that anti-NATO rhetoric is one thing that he uses, but we do not believe it is the foundation of all his power. Okay, so what does this look like in the real world? This looks like thousands more journalists and activists jailed on a daily basis. It looks like generations growing up without ever having experience of a fair election and having no meaningful say over their future. Most of all, it looks like economic devastation in Russia and in Eastern European countries. To my second point, that the NATO former presence makes Putin unable to occupy Eastern European countries. Even if Putin wants to invade Eastern Europe, his capacity to do so is removed by NATO former presence. In order to understand why, let's look at how Putin has carried out invasions in the past in Georgia and Ukraine. Putin's occupation of Crimea and his de facto occupation of the eastern Ukraine first time when protests broke out among Russian-speaking pro-Putin sections of the Ukrainian population. Putin was able to covertly encourage and more importantly arm and fund these groups, but the Ukrainian government lost total control. This process was facilitated by ununiformed Russian troops, the so-called Green Men, and Russian special forces who crossed the border in order to support these local rebels. When Putin ever to invade the Baltic states or countries in Eastern Europe, we imagined this is how he was going to do it. Because even though it's extremely risky, it's a lot easier to deny than a direct Russian invasion. However, recognizing these tactics are rendered impossible by NATO presence, and there are two reasons for this. Firstly, the fact that NATO controls the border and has armed guards on the border means that Russia physically cannot smuggle in arms or goods to separate rebels. So even if Putin could stir up democratic instability, it will never escalate into an armed conflict, and even if it did, it will be at a scale where it will be swiftly defeated by the local police. Secondly, Putin's proxy forces, the local groups that he seeks to arm, are untrained and ultimately weak in numbers. They will only choose to risk their life if they have Russian protection and know that they have a reasonable chance of success. These are both impossible under NATO forward presence, because if you're 10 miles away from a battalion of US Marines, then the chance of success is very low. And even the most radical separatists in Donetsk or Crimea wouldn't have risked their lives in open combat among the US military. To conclude, the tactics of armed insurrection and covert intervention that Putin favors will simply never work in a world when NATO maintains troops close to Russian borders. For all these reasons, and because Team Wales is proud to stand for a team line that in Eastern Europe without NATO presence will always be put in jeopardy, we are incredibly proud to oppose.
I thank the first opposition speaker for this speech. And now to continue the case for the proposition, please welcome Banda Kasero.
Team opposition clearly mistaken how we characterize Putin and how Putin is actually characterized in the real world. They keep on telling us that if you put on these troops, this is enough to deter Putin, and he's going to be scared on this case. What we tell you on our side of the house, that what you're doing with the Eastern Forward presence is you're causing more of a problem. We're telling you that the Eastern Forward presence puts troops in Putin's backyard near the borders. We're telling you that Putin here is a strong man and will do anything to show that Russia isn't scared of fighting NATO. We're telling you, since you put these troops, we're telling you this actually incentivizes Putin to retaliate. We're telling you this increases proxy wars. We're telling you this actually increases the arms race. Where do you see this happen with Cuba, for example? When Russia put nuclear missiles in Cuba, this is when America decided to ramp up its military, to cause more propaganda. So we're telling you that what Team Opposition is trying to do is start another Cold War by putting these troops in Putin's Putin's backyard. And then they keep on telling us that there are actually no constraints on Putin, and he would just like invade these countries. We're telling you that Article 5 already does this in the first place. They keep on giving us examples of Georgia and Ukraine, but we have to bear in mind these are not NATO countries and aren't protected under Article 5. What we're telling you with Poland, Latvia, and Estonia, they're already protected with Article 5. And if Putin actually does invade these countries, where do you see that all of them are going to cause this retaliation rather than these couple of troops? No, thank you. So Prop 1 has already showed you that the EFP does nothing meaningful to actually protect them from the aggression. And we're telling you that this just emboldens the Putin regime by increasing him and making a bigger arms race. And we're telling you this actually encourages greater Russian efforts to destabilize. What I'm going to show you is that military escalation is more likely on their side, on our side, if the Eastern Forward presence moves, and it's actually more disastrous. So let's actually see what the EFP did. We think that it actually causes more instability and insecurity in the region. So if you ask yourself, will the additional show of force be a deterrent, or would it actually be a sign of hostility by Putin, fueling the regime and arms race and causing more irrational behavior? So we see from an empirical level, since the deployment of the EFP, we see that Russia has seen massive mobilization of troops near the borders. We see that because of the Eastern Forward presence, Russia put Iskander missile systems, which are nuclear weapons, capable of actually targeting Berlin. We see that because of the Eastern Forward presence, you've increased the naval presence in the Black Sea and the air patrols near the border. We're telling you that because of the EFP, this is what caused mobilization of 100K troops. But let's look at these numbers, right? We see that this is 100K troop compared to the 450 Canadians placed in Latvia. We're telling you that this one soldiers, both of them under high tension and high stress, one mistake can cause the backlash. Because these people, you have to realize, are just gunpoint from each other. And we're telling you, since you put these troops on the patrols, just waiting for someone to move, we're telling you that this has caused more stress. And this actually, Eastern Forward presence will do nothing to stop Putin, because military experts tell you that in 60 hours, the Russian military can actually capture Latvian and Estonian capitals. So this is clearly not a deterrent or any form of defense, but rather just an excuse for escalation. But we do concede that full-scale military conflict is unlikely, but we're telling you that the EFP acts more of a provocation and is actually a more greater risk than necessary. The real question is the risk worth it? But before I move on, yes.
If Russia can take over Lithuania in 60 hours, why would you keep American troops on a 12-hour flight away in America?
Because we're telling you these troops won't do anything. You're just telling us, oh, these troops are going to deter the Russians. We're telling you Article 5 does a great job on its own. You're telling us, oh, if they attack these troops, then the entire American military comes. We're telling you this already happens with Article 5, so what you're doing is unnecessary in the first place. Russia won't even think of even invading because of Article 5. But since now you're putting troops in his backyard, threatening him and telling him, you're the bad guy, if you come here, I dare you to come here, we're gonna shoot you. You're actually antagonizing Russia more, further on escalating tensions. And we already see that there are actually already like conflicts, even if the initiation isn't conflict, because we already see that there are actually 780 distinct military incidents between Russia and NATO. We see this is the highest since the Cold War. These are actually flybys and intercepts and naval jets. We already see this happening of the risk. We already told you about this risk of one soldier or one pilot under extreme stress. We already tell you that this actually escalates the conflicts when they're placed on the border. So we have to challenge them how risking a full-out military conflict between major world powers is actually more worthwhile. And we're already showing you that Putin has actually exploited the EFP. We're telling you this is how he tries to empower himself. This is how he responds. We're telling you that the EFP is actually unnecessary and Article 5 is all you need to protect these nations. And we're telling you that the EFP causes more instability and the risk of conflict. But so let's look at the impacts of the EFP, right? We see that there are actually more immediate impacts rather than the immediate region, and it actually makes things worse. We see it's actually also harmful to NATO and beyond these nations. So the thesis to this argument is we see that the EFP actually invigorates and incentivizes Russia to play a more destabilizing role globally. We see that this actually harms other NATO nations because Russia has the incentive to actually destabilize NATO nations, either to create internal discord or to ship nations away from NATO and actually to be more pro-Russian. We already see since the EFP, more closer ties have been made with Turkey and Hungary, which are already NATO nations. We already see in Hungary already a pro-Russian fascist government has already been taking place. And we see also Russia has been exploiting the problems with Turkey and the EU in order to undermine NATO. We already see Turkey has already expelled German troops from the Erselik air base. We already tell you that Turkey has already purchased S-400 missiles, which are worth 2.5 billion, and these don't come with a single buy-off. We see already you need officers, training, and technical assistance. We're telling you you're actually implementing top-notch Russian groups in a Turkish base. And Turkey happens to be the second biggest military in NATO. So we're telling you this already causes Russia to actually seek closer ties with NATO countries to pull them away because of the EFP. We're telling you that NATO relies on solidarity and Russia is trying so hard to undermine this. We think we already see this with internal discourse in other countries. So the EFP just lets Russia make more hybrid warfare in Western Europe. Because we know Putin wouldn't want to engage with these troops, so he's going to try to have more proxy warfare and hybrid wars such as denial system and this propaganda. What the Eastern Forward presence does is this provocates it even more. We see already Russia has already interfered with elections in Germany, France, UK, Netherlands, and the USA with varying successes. We're telling you this is actually an attack on democracy itself, and the EFP actually causes attacks and they can't defend against them. We see also harms to other non-NATO nations because Russian cooperation is actually essential. We see that because of the EFP, Russia is viewed as the enemy and actually less cooperate with other people. We see you're actually they're part of international organizations such as the UN. We see that Russia vetoes everything because you're showing them that they are actually the bad guy. We already told you how this actually is proven in Ukraine and Syria because you only try to attack Putin rather than work against him. And this is why we're proud to propose.
Second questions, 8 minutes and 19 seconds.
I tell the second proposition to the police. And now to continue the case for the proposition, please welcome Ariana Jessa.
Team Wales is proud to stand under the team line that in Eastern Europe without NATO presence will always be Putin jeopardy. I will be rebutting the case we've heard from Team Qatar today and be rebuilding my partner's arguments and showing you how they directly clash. After which I'll be extending her analysis by talking about how this motion prevents long-term sustainability in Israel. Firstly, let's hear about what we've heard from side proposition. They tell us that the only reason that Russia is intervening is because the US is at its back door, or that NATO is at its back door. Apparently, Putin is like a child who is going to be embarrassed by someone stealing his toy and is therefore going to violently react regardless of the consequences. We give you sophisticated analysis as to why this is not the case. We tell you the political reasons why NATO is necessary, because Russia will intervene in these countries not because it's angry that NATO is there, but because it needs the naval ports and warm water ports that are going to allow it to be economically sustainable in times of crisis. No response to this analysis of why it's the case politically that Putin needs these areas, just as characterization that apparently Putin is a child that can't actually defend himself. Secondly, they tell us that oh, well, moderacy is going to happen all of a sudden because, the EFP is the reason why Putin's so strong and Putin's so potent. No, thank you. We see that is clearly not the case when EFP hasn't been in place in the times when Russia has intervened in Georgia, occupied those countries, right? We can clearly see that moderacy hasn't happened and that Putin's rhetoric is strengthened by the fact that he's a strong man from the point of the Cold War onwards, that he is the person who's going to reestablish a united Russia, not the fact that he's all of a sudden the only thing standing between the US and total Western domination. We tell you, no thank you. We tell you lastly that Putin is clearly not reactionary, ladies and gentlemen. He doesn't need this provocation in order to intervene in these countries because he already does this covertly through things like arming Russian-speaking rebels in different countries. We can already see this has happened, right? And that this sets precedence that it will continue to happen. We think that Putin is fundamentally an opportunist, and they fail to recognize this. Passivity on part of the NATO is not going to make Russia think, oh, well, I'm not going to expand the sphere of influence that my whole political campaign is standing on. Instead, I'm going to leave it be instead of going into these other countries that are clearly in my economic interest to take. And now NATO is not there to stop me. They tell us that this is going to have a really big impact on Eastern Europe because, Article 5 is the thing that's going to stop us from everything. Firstly, Article 5 is meaningless unless you have troops stationed to enforce it, right? If US troops are thousands of miles away, there's no way you can enforce Article 5. And secondly, we notice that it's very, very important that we do not let Putin know thank you. Putin has the first mover advantage in this case because we've seen it happen in Georgia when he arms Russian-speaking rebels in Georgia, and this causes things like what happened in Georgia, things like the uprisings in Ukraine that cause Putin to be able to control parts of those countries. We think that's very, very harmful. My partner tells you why. They don't get any response to that. We tell you that Article 5 is only useful insofar as it's enforceable. And we think that doesn't happen when you have NATO's troops stationed far, far away. They tell us that these NATO troops are super weak, and as a result, only the 50 Canadian soldiers are going to be able to stop them. Firstly, we tell you that NATO's capacity is extremely strong. They have the backing of 2% of every country's GDP of going towards their military intervention. So they have these 8 or 10 troops right now, they have these 800 soldiers, but as soon as they find that the Russian soldiers are firing on them, NATO is going to send troops in, no thank you, so quickly. And this is going to result in all-out conflict. We told you why this is not in Putin's interest to have this happen, right? Because it's going to result in the escalation of war to the point at which either Putin gets deposed and his life is on the line, or the country gets annihilated by nuclear warfare. No response to that analysis. Yes.
So the troops are going to be there because the troops are already there. That's exactly Article 5. The troops don't really have to be there.
Ladies and gentlemen, we gave you analysis as to why when troops are there and able to stop arms from being shipped from Russia to Georgia, these rebels aren't going to be armed to the point at which they can disseminate this Russian narrative and cause all of the violence that has been happening. The fact that the troops are there is going to stop arms from being fled in, and it will also result, we gave you analysis as to why that was. Lastly, they bring to us the case about how this is going to have a broader impact on NATO and the EU because the EFP has resulted in more ties between Turkey and Hungary, and Russia wants closer ties because of the EFP. No, Russia wants closer ties to these countries because it wants to expand the Russian sphere of influence. Because when it gives gas to these countries, it makes them economically dependent on him, and this expands the sphere of influence. So furthering the idea that he wants to kind of recreate the Soviet Union's Soviet Union's influence. This has nothing to do with EFP. Never gave us structural reasons why that was, just asserted that it was the case. They tell us lastly about how there's cyber attacks and how that's the biggest problem that they can come up with, right? We think cyber attacks happen on both sides because Russia wants any reason to be better than NATO, better than the opposing forces in these countries. No thank you. Now on to my substantive case about how we get long-term sustainability of NATO and how this will be destroyed by that motion. We're getting to a point, ladies and gentlemen, where many countries, especially in Eastern Europe, see NATO as a paper tiger that's not worth joining. Why is this the case? We think there are 2 reasons. No thank you. Firstly, with the election of Donald Trump and the surge of right-wing isolationists in France and the UK, there's a very big risk that the US, UK, and France will seize their financial and military support to NATO. Donald Trump even referred to it as obsolete just last year. We can see that NATO is on the verge of collapse if these countries do this. Secondly, no thank you. The fact that both Ukraine and Georgia had independence destroyed by Russia gives the impression that Russia can destroy states with impunity. While this isn't true, the perception exists and it's extremely pernicious. Thirdly, NATO membership is extremely expensive, ladies and gentlemen. Very small countries that require NATO to spend 2% of their military, 2% of their GDP on military, don't want to spend this, and crucially, no thank you, don't. They're looking for any reason to get out of NATO. This results in a very real risk of NATO collapse in the near future when membership isn't worth the cost and a country after country draws out unilaterally. This has three real-world impacts. Firstly, on the practical level, our capacity to combat global terrorism largely depends on NATO because NATO allows it to show this power, right? We can see that NATO overthrew the Taliban in Afghanistan and decimated Al-Qaeda and has a link between the increase of NATO and the death of Osama bin Laden, right? In a world without NATO, no thank you, you get far stronger Al-Qaeda and we're unable to combat global terror. Secondly, NATO is one of the very few organizations capable of military intervention to protect against crimes against humanity. NATO planes that ended the massacre of Bosnian Muslims in the late 1990s. NATO planes saved citizens in Benghazi from butchery of Gaddafi's army. A world without NATO, when we see that the surge of genocide is inflicted on innocent people, when the West in all its might is powerful to respond to crimes against humanity. Just to be clear, we cannot allow the collapse of NATO because the cost of human rights would be just too great. Why specifically does forward NATO presence in the Eastern European stop this long-term collapse? Three reasons. Firstly, by staying in Eastern Europe, it shows that the US is committed to NATO and shows that Donald Trump's rhetoric is just bluster. This is extremely important because countries still in NATO can count on US protection, and this makes NATO a very priceless asset in these countries that these countries are going to want. Secondly, stationing US troops and allowing inter-army training and joint exercises will strengthen these armies so they'll have a further incentive to join NATO. Thirdly, this presence means that Eastern Europe will not have to shoulder as much burden in order to defend themselves, which is going to drive down the cost of NATO membership when less countries have to spend on defense. For as long as there is NATO foreign presence in Eastern Europe, it won't be seen as a paper tiger, but as a valuable strategic asset, keeping NATO sustainable in the long term. We preserve freedom and security of Eastern Europe because the continued existence of NATO will protect human rights of millions across the globe. And we're proud to stand under the team line that in Eastern Europe without NATO presence will always be Putin jeopardy. Thank you.
Questions back 8 minutes and 14 seconds.
Can I ask, is there a way to switch? I don't know what it is that's blurry.
Yeah.
Or should I forward one?
Yeah.
And thank the second opposition speaker for this speech. And now to continue the case for the proposition, please welcome Rashid Hamad.
Team opposition still mischaracterizes Vladimir Putin. They think that Putin, putting those troops on the border, will make Vladimir Putin stand with his arms folded and will not escalate the use of information warfare and destabilizing effects. We believe that the increased forward presence in Eastern Europe is certainly does more harm than good. Clearly shown to you that Vladimir Putin and his regime are using this increased forward presence as an excuse to take away freedoms of Russian people. The use of propaganda, using this forward presence as an excuse for more oppression inside Russia. We've shown to you how this increased the incentives for cyber attacks, for stirring ethnic discourse inside Israel. This debate comes down to just one of the big flashpoints: instability. On which side
Other
is
information.
instability bigger and higher? We believe that it's only on the team opposite side. Yes, okay.
Do you believe that Russia wants to expand its sphere of influence into Eastern Europe for political and economic reasons?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that's enough of an answer. So instability. They've told us that the increased world presence in Eastern Europe is deterrent, and that Vladimir Putin won't be able to take those countries. Response to that. Okay. This whole increased foreign presence came into place after the annexation of Crimea. Ukraine, not a NATO member. They believe that Putin won't be able to take Estonia, Latvia, Poland, and Lithuania because of this foreign presence. We completely disagree. Article 5 is the deterrence. He won't be able to take those countries because they are NATO members, because Article 5 is in place. He was able to do that in Georgia, he was able to do that in Ukraine because they are not NATO members. This increased foreign presence is useless. They've told us about rebel groups being deployed by Vladimir Putin inside those countries in Eastern Europe. And we tell you that Latvia, Poland, and Lithuania, and Estonia already have the capability to fight those rebel groups. And Article 5, again, something that they have not really responded to that much. They just told us that the troops are there to get Article 5, basically. The troops are there just to make sure that Article 5 is going to actually be implemented. Because we disagree. They need in their next speech to prove to us again why Article 5 is not enough. They told us that like 450 troops in Latvia and Estonia are certainly not enough to face thousands and thousands of troops on the border of Russia on the other side. We told you that Russia is further engaging in hybrid warfare activities such as fake news campaigns, cyber attacks on banks in Estonia and Poland, and staring at the board in Eastern Europe. Imagine if this ethnically Russian Latvian, for example, is listening, watching this Russian propaganda because he does something stupid on the border. Imagine what would happen. We believe that, again, those troops should not be there, and Article 5 is enough for the deterrence for Russia, and it is enough to ensure the safety of those countries. Yes.
So you say that because they won't be intervened in because, well, they're all members of NATO. But this isn't true, because when Georgia tried to join NATO, he did exactly the same thing as he did in Donetsk, in South Ossetia and Abkhazia. How's that not the case?
Okay, well, then you're just saying that Georgia is not a NATO member. That's exactly why it happened. But those countries are NATO members. We've told you that this increased foreign presence empowers Vladimir Putin inside of Russia. He's seen as a strong figure inside of Russia. He's gaining more support from anti-NATO, anti-West rhetoric. And this means that more people are being repressed in Russia. Freedom of speech is being further taken away from the people in Russia because of this. And they might argue that this has already happened before the foreign presence. And that could be true, yes. But now he has an excuse. He's using this foreign presence as an excuse to do all this.
Right.
Yes.
If NATO troops are not positioned in order to enforce Article 5,
Could you say that again? I can't hear you.
okay. If NATO troops aren't positioned in these areas to regulate Article 5, then what incentive does Putin have not to violate?
No. We don't believe that they're there to regulate Article 5. Article 5 is in place. When something happens, the Article 5 and NATO members will cover this. We will ensure the safety of these countries. Even when those groups are there, we've shown to you and told you that the capitals of Estonia and Latvia can be captured within 60 hours.
Right, sir.
No, thank you. My speech will be short because simply I just couldn't hear, the three of us could not hear the first speaker of team opposition. But even when that's the case, we clearly shown to you that the Putin regime is using this foreign presence as an excuse to oppress people inside of Russia, to further engage in cyber attacks and hybrid warfare activities, and that Article 5 is certainly ensuring the safety of those countries. For these reasons, we are proud to oppose.
Your motions 16 and 16 seconds.
I thank the third proposition speaker for the speech. And now to continue the case for the opposition, please welcome Said Sijun.
Can you bring it a bit closer because the AC is here? I want to look at three things in the speech. Firstly, is EFP necessary and sufficient? Secondly, why is Putin's power curtailed by our side better? And thirdly, what are the impacts on both sides of the world? And why, like, a literal war is a lot better than a bank getting hacked, even if that happens like in both sides. Alright, firstly, is EFP necessary and sufficient? First, let me prove to you that EFP is exceptionally necessary. Why? Because firstly, two countries have been invaded. Abkhazia, Georgia, and Crimea have been invaded already. Their response is that we are starting the Cold War, but the reality is it has already started when Russia chose to intervene into these places. What we're essentially doing is we're making the situation far less risky for these countries because we're giving them protection, they are denying them protection. Secondly, we showed you that Russia has cold strategic political incentives to capture naval ports in these regions. My first speaker gave you three reasons why that's true. One, because in times of any military crisis, Russia wants to secure oil and food imports and it needs the naval route if the landlocked neighbors are not supporting. Second, because it wants to fend enemies off coming through the naval route. Third, because it has a long-term aspiration, the aspiration of a landlocked country to rival US military might. We told you how Russia is already powerful in land and air power. The only remaining strength to rival that of the US is the naval route. Given we established it, they had literally no response that why Russia won't try to influence these nations and occupy these territories. The reason why Russia intervened in Crimea was to secure Sevastopol Black Fleet. We told you there's Kaliningrad Fleet in Lithuania, and if Lithuanian government is not cooperating with them in any time in future, and it's already a NATO member and a member of the European Union, Russia will simply occupy that region as well. There are Russian minority populations in that region as well, which means it's fairly easy for Russia to do so. Given this extensive and sophisticated political characterization we gave you, they had literally no way to take it up. Which means Russia has every incentive to occupy these nations, and they're going to do it if you don't stop them. Secondly, NATO presence is sufficient. Now, firstly, they will say what's their alternative? Do they want Lithuanian troops to protect Lithuania? Clearly, like they're not strong enough against Russian troops, that's why you need NATO troops. But secondly, the point that Article 5 is meaningless, right? The point remains that if Article 5 is not enforceable, their policy has no value. And my second speaker told you why that won't happen. Like Article 5 is meaningless if troops are stationed thousands of miles away. How would you expect US to do anything meaningfully if Russia can come in 60 hours or 6 hours, whatever they talked about, and US needs days to bring their heavy artillery to this region, right? If their categorization is self-defeating for them, like we need to station these troops because otherwise Russia will be first movers in this region. But thirdly, my coach tells me to be really nice and take other teams' arguments at its strongest, but when they're clearly lying, I'm sorry, I can't do it, right? Because it's not true that there are 800 troops in this region. Like they conveniently ignore that there are 5,000 troops of Germany and France in this region, and America has sent like extensive armed, like heavy armed battalions and artillery in this region. They clearly conveniently ignore that truth and try to tell you like one part of the story. But the fact remains, this heavy artillery is important because Russia's only advantage is to get into a region fast, arm rebels, and then like occupy the territory, and then wait. Once you take speed away from Russia, they will literally have no ability to fight NATO. Why? Because they have heavy armed battery. That's the style of NATO troops to start with. They use heavy weapons, heavy tanks. Russia only depends on speed, on a blitz style or a skirmish style military attack. Once you take speed away, NATO soldiers will literally expunge them like they did in Kosovo, like they did against the Taliban. And they have no way to respond to that as well. But finally, we talked about how Russia never publicly claims that they have intervened the country, right? So the point about Russia won't intervene a NATO member is irrelevant. Russia does not claim that it has intervened in Crimea. It says, oh, there are some self-righteous rebels who are doing it. And if a part of a country wants to protect itself, who am I to stop them? Like, Russia will never claim that it's intervening. It will simply arm rebels, smuggle soldiers, and that's how destabilization begins. Ariana's analysis not taken down at all. In conclusion, we proved to you why this will be sufficient as well. Because one, Article 5 is meaningless if it's not enforceable. Second, NATO soldiers are extremely powerful and they will expunge our Russian rebels. Thirdly, because Russia can smuggle weapons to this region, which means this is necessarily sufficient. Given this is true, we have already shown why, based on a value judgment criteria, EFP is extremely good.
Both sides said that Putin is an opportunist. Don't you think that since there are EFP troops there, Putin will tell the ethnic Russians that these are occupiers and escalate tensions even more?
There's a difference in being an opportunist and being a dumb guy. Putin will not risk a nuclear warfare. Putin will not risk his soldiers returning to Russia in body bags after being expunged by NATO soldiers. That's the alternative. Second time, how do we reduce Putin's power? And we comprehensively won the clash to start with because they have no responses. Firstly, without EFP, moderates can't replace Vladimir Putin. Why? Because he has been in power since 2000 and he has an ironclad grasp over Russian politics. Because he is friends with oligarchs and ex-KGB members, he kills dissidents and imprisons. The reality is, moderates don't exist in Russia. Either they are in the Gulag or in heavens. Furthermore, the only, Harvey's analysis was the only way to depose him is if his oligarch colleagues and military friends replace him. And they will not choose to throw him away if he risks a nuclear war, which is why you have to send NATO soldiers there so that Putin cannot pride on his oligarch friends anymore, because he will be dethroned if he tries to be stupid. But secondly, his strongman narrative is weakened by our side, because when Russian soldiers return in body bags instead of glory, he won't have the strongman narrative. But secondly, there's a difference between strength and stupidity, right? A direct war with NATO is impossibly risky, and that's why Putin won't risk it as well. But thirdly, our characterization of Putin being an opportunist stance, which means he won't even risk it in the first place, right? Because he looks for easy wars, which is why he intervened Crimea, he intervened Syria, but never directly fought with, the fact that American soldiers were not in Syria is the reason why he intervened Syria. And even if there are some American-backed rebels in Syria, Russia tries really hard not to fight them directly because it thinks that's a very risky intervention to start with. In conclusion, in the longer run, Harvey told you how we lessen Putin's power, because if he tries to be stupid, he won't be able to succeed. My third clash is about impact, and it's quite easy as well because they never took our impacts down. Firstly, panel, have some sanity and compare the threats of an invasion, annexation, proxy war, collateral damage, people dying versus banks getting hacked. I think it's quite an intuitive choice for a normal human being to make. Secondly, we proved to you why cyber wars will happen anyway, because they can't compete in a conventional war. Are you telling me that Russia will not use its only advantage, that is cybersecurity, when it can't compete with global powers in military might, given the fact that it does not have naval power to start with? Which means Russia will try to influence policies in any nation, right? Like Putin really hates Hillary Clinton, so he would have hacked the election even if there was no EFP, because he wants to influence countries on its own, because he wants to be a global power. But thirdly, Ariana's analysis about global security was never taken down. We told you how. NATO is the only bastion of human rights in the world. If NATO collides, no country will have the incentive to unilaterally intervene in a genocide, because the political baggage of that is really high. Given NATO is a multilateral organization, it's very easy for NATO members to intervene in a country without carrying the political baggage of an invader. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, EFP is necessary because NATO soldiers can expunge Russian ones, and we provide better outcomes for the world. And that's why we stand in front of you with the team line that without NATO, Eastern Europe will be put in jeopardy. Extremely proud to stand for this side.
If there are no questions, 8 minutes and 20 seconds.
I second now move to the team's 4-minute concluding reply speeches. To deliver the opposition's reply speech, I call upon Ariana Jessa.
In Eastern Europe, without NATO presence, will always be Putin jeopardy. Team Wales has been extremely consistent about what we stand for and what a world looks like when NATO does not have forward military presence in Eastern Europe. I'll be asking 3 main questions in this reply, and then I'll go way up the sides to you and show you the impacts of what a world without NATO actually looks like. Firstly, I'm going to be asking, will NATO provide a deterrent in this area? Second, for Russia. Secondly, will NATO limit capacity of Russia to intervene in Eastern Europe? And thirdly, who protects the longevity of NATO and why is this so important? Firstly, will NATO provide a deterrent? So they tell you first, Team Qatar tells you that no, it won't provide a deterrent because it'll incite Russia, because it needs propaganda in order to invade. We tell you that this is absolutely ridiculous, that A, the only reason that Putin needs to go and the only excuse he needs to go intervene is because his people will all of a sudden support it. That's not true. And then secondly, they tell you that it's because they'll feel threatened. We destroy this characterization from our first speaker to our third. We tell you, firstly, that there are loads of other incentives for Russia to intervene economically, politically, because they need warm water ports, because since the Cold War, Russia's authority as a power has been destroyed. We tell you that on this, we win this characterization, right? Because we tell you systematic reasons why Putin will always want to intervene or want to occupy Eastern Europe, while they only give you an example of how Putin is like a child and won't want someone else to steal his toy and will get kind of angry. We tell you the reasons why it provides a deterrent, because we think Putin isn't going to want to risk nuclear warfare, because he doesn't want to risk losing his strongman stance, which they concede is very important. Because lastly, he would get disposed of and likely killed if the parties in Russia feel like he's threatening Russia's security. We win this deterrent argument simply on this basis. But let's talk about the only thing they really brought to you, which is Article 5 solves all of our problems. We destroyed this systematically on our side by telling you why it's meaningless if it can't be enforced, no response on their side, why all of a sudden Article 5 and why legislation in general is like absolutely impervious if you can't enforce it. Secondly, why will NATO limit capacity of Russia to occupy Eastern Europe? Firstly, they never responded to my first speaker's entire second argument about this, about how they won't be able to intervene covertly because border control will be happening, because you won't be able to wage proxy wars outside of the house, because border control is extremely important in not letting Russian military infiltrate rebel-like sentiments in these countries. They never gave us any response. They only told us that capacity will not be limited because A, cyber wars will happen. We tell you that cyber wars happen on both sides of the house because Russia, of course, wants to be a strongman in any way it can and will use cyber warfare no matter what. And they tell you, lastly, that yes, capacity will be limited because moderates come into power. We tell you very clearly, moderates don't exist in Russia. Moderates clearly haven't come into power before the EFP was in place. They don't give us reasons why moderates all of a sudden will appear and will not be killed by the opposition in Russia. Lastly, let's talk about who protects the longevity of NATO. And this was something that was completely dropped on their side, never responded to. And further, they dropped their own third argument about NATO and protection of Eastern Europe as a result, right? We tell you, on the other hand, that the long-term sustainability of NATO is in jeopardy in status quo. That unless we protect it, thousands of people will die because of the lack of protection against the crimes of humanity that only NATO, because of its military might, can protect against. We tell you why that is an extremely important benefit we get on our side, which they never respond to. And for that reason alone, we win this debate. Let's look at what a world looks like without NATO. On their world side, it looks like propaganda gets kind of less, and we destroy this, but let's take that example at its best. And that banks won't get hacked because cyber warfare isn't going to be as popular. We tell you that no NATO in Eastern Europe results in the destruction of rights and the economy in Eastern Europe and the collapse of NATO as an organization. Because we support the majority of the impacts and they never actually take them down. We are so proud to stand under the team line that has never been refuted, that in Eastern Europe, without NATO presence, will always be Putin jeopardy.
Reply speakers span 4 minutes and 10 seconds.
opposition makes it sound like the EFP is the only reason why NATO will be successful, and they make it sound like without the EFP, that's it, all NATO's articles, all the things they did in the past are meaningless. They make it sound like the EFP is the sole reason why NATO exists. And we think that, and they keep on telling us that it's the reason why we can protect Eastern Europe more. We're telling you is that it creates further tensions. And we're going to tell you this on 2 clash points. We're going to tell you how, and we will explain Putin's mindset, and we have to show you what's happening directly now due to the things that have been caused by the EFP. So moving on to the first mindset, they already even told you that Putin is an opportunist. And they keep on telling us that without the EFP, you're putting Eastern Europe's security at stake for some reason. And then they keep on telling us that, oh, Ukraine and Georgia fell to the hands of Putin and we have to enforce EFP. And then they keep on telling us that once you have troops on hand, you solve the entire problem. All of a sudden, Putin's just going to back away. What we're telling you here is that, yes, Putin is an opportunist and he is this big baby that you're actually portraying. We're telling you what, if you get a baby, obviously he's gonna hit back. We're telling you because since you stationed troops there, obviously he's going to increase the arms race. We're telling you because he did the EFP, more proxy warfare will happen, more information warfare is going to happen, because you're actually increasing his power, because this is the strong man he wants to be. Once you put troops there, people think, oh, this is a direct attack on my authority. You think I'm just going to stand there with my arms folded just watching you think that and undermine my power? No, we're telling you already that the EFP clearly empowers Putin more. We're telling you that you're actually antagonizing him and giving him this excuse to further on cause more instability and rather destabilize the region. We're telling you this could be easily solved by talking to him. We're telling you if you always keep him as the enemy and rather and always sending troops, he will never listen. We're telling you due to the EFP, issues such as Syria and Ukraine will never be solved. We're telling you this because Putin is old. The narrative will always be Putin versus the world. And we see that the EFP further exacerbates this because all you're doing is antagonizing him and giving him easy excuses to further on make this more basically bad. We already told you this actually makes things that the EFP can't protect against. We already tell you that now since you're actually putting troops, Russia's going to go into more information war and actually take NATO countries for his own benefit. We tell you since you're putting all these troops, now Russia is taking Hungary to its side. We already told you now a pro-Russian fascist government has been in place. We already tell you that the second largest NATO army, which is Turkey, is now moving more to become Russian friendly because now you're actually implementing more missile systems and putting more Russian troops there. We're telling you now Russia, since you put the EFP, will systematically decide to destabilize NATO, which they want to protect so badly because they see that always the sole purpose for this world. We're telling you, yes, we want to protect NATO as well, but what you're doing is you're actually breaking it apart more by making Putin this bad guy. So let's look at what's happening now, right? We see that all they tell us is that these troops won't allow the Russian troops to infiltrate, and now we have a protection and a blanket. We're telling you, no, you're actually causing more problems because you're making Putin more sneaky and more likely to do such things. We're telling you because you put the EFP, you're actually causing more instability. We already told you because of the EFP, now Putin placed Iskander missile systems that can target Berlin. We're telling you all you're doing here is antagonizing Putin and you're not solving it. We're telling you that diplomatic things are actually the key here. We're telling you Article 5 is already sufficient enough because Putin wouldn't dare to touch these countries because Article 5 already exists.